Thank you for staying with us. Now, despite the myriads of challenges confronting the Nigerian economy, the country has emerged the fastest growing hub in the continent in terms of capital investment. According to a recent report by global auditing firm Ernst and Young titled Africa Attractiveness Report 2021, Nigeria emerged the fastest growing hub in the continent in 2020 in terms of capital investments, attracting $6.6 billion, followed by South Africa attracting $3.8 billion, Angola $3.1 billion, Morocco $2.4 billion in investments. However, with global cryptocurrency market having a capitalization in excess of $500 billion, analysts are of the view that an effective industry collaboration and government support, the adoption of the blockchain technology can become a major source of foreign direct investment for Nigeria in order to drive economic development in the nation at a time when other nations are already taking advantage of aid to ease the way for young people's digital enterprises to grow. Well, I introduced him. He's live now at Lagos studio, not joining us from the UK today. He's the startup founder of Wealth Hackers, Mr. Olugbenga Onifade. Compliments of the season. It's good to see you.
And you too. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Yes. First, how would you assess the inflows of foreign direct investment into the country, despite all of the challenges that we face in Nigeria? What's your assessment of it?
So, over the years, Nigeria has always been very attractive, but for some reason, 2021, and of course, due to myriad of reasons, one of them which is the COVID, which is a global pandemic, the inflow of direct investment to Nigeria actually fell to the lowest in 11 years. So last year has actually been very disappointing. Unfortunately, we don't know what this year holds. We haven't got the crystal ball to see what this year holds right now. But 2010 to 2020, we had a record inflow, but 2021 was a disappointment. And of course, if you look at other factors as well, national security, unemployment, and should I just say a lot of government regulation. So it's actually compacted with COVID pandemic, and it's just drawn it to an economy on its knees further, unfortunately. So it has been very disappointing. You are as good as your last performance, which is 2021, but unfortunately it has been disappointing, and I actually do not see much green or bright lights right now.
Repatriating funds is also something that has been an issue, particularly with Forex and all of that.
Sure.
Is that also discouraging investment? Because one way you need to do business and you also need to get your money back to your country. But when there are problems with maybe the Forex market and all of that, can that also discourage investors?
It does. Excuse me. I mean, how do I refer to myself? I was going to say as a foreigner in here myself, if I want to see it that way. Number one, you've got to look at the rate of our currency.
Yes.
It's daily been devalued. There was a certain business that the government had a problem with that had to shut down temporarily because the government feel the rate's been manipulated. And again, I was actually looking at the charts a few days ago and looking at the currency, the Nigerian naira against the standardized dollar, US dollar. It has actually been disappointing. It's actually been on a total free fall. Your previous guest was talking about the economy being now globalized. Unfortunately, we're not being globalized, which is quite a shame. The Nigerian economy of a 21st century economy is still being run with the same scope as the 60s, which is a shame because we're still heavily reliant on the crude oil, which still drives our production. I mean, the biggest investment right now we do have is still based on the refinery, which is another shame, I would say, unfortunately. And that's what's been attracting people. But the world is moving away from us, and we actually are being left behind, if you do ask me, in my humble opinion.
And now, towards the end of last year, the central bank introduced the e-naira, and many say that this will help, foreign exchange and all of drive inclusion, maybe increasing flows into the country. What do you think about that scheme or that initiative?
That actually is a brilliant approach. A lot of people do ask me, I'm talking about professionals, do ask me in the same field. That's actually a brilliant thing to do, even though. So you've got to say, okay, they do have a good heart to help the economy. Number one, what does it do? It drives inclusion because we do have majority percentage of Nigerians are unbanked compared to who have been banked. That's number one. Number two, there's traceability because if you look at what they call QI, quantitative easing, you can't just print money, in the blank economy. It just waters down the economy. It increases inflation. So doing that, and of course, one of the biggest things we know Nigeria is used for wasting resources. And when we say we waste resources, it's just by stealing, which is unfortunately corruption by the who knows who. So if you do that, it helps traceability. You can't just print money into a free fall. In terms of money being mined, that's the way it works. Just like the crypto assets, which has been done. So that way, and of course, people will be. You can't escape not paying taxes, really. Not just when you want to get a visa, that you have to pay tax to comply. But as a natural business, you want to help the economy, you will be able to pay taxes. Government will be able to see, and it makes things easier. And again, of course, if you're looking at businesses transacting with foreign organizations abroad, it makes their lives easier. If you are conducting business with China, you don't have to pay excessive fees when it comes to importation or exportation of goods. So it does actually help the economy. It works both ways. While it's a good initiative by the government, but the unfortunate angle is the fact that the government, they've actually been I wouldn't say they're scoring an own goal. They've been giving us mixed feelings, mixed reactions with. Is crypto banned? Is it not banned? There's been so much secular going out there, people being arrested. And so we have the president saying something, and we have the number 2 citizen who says something else about crypto and the benefits of cryptocurrency for the economy. So, but without talking about the cryptocurrency, looking at the e-naira in its own sense, that is actually amazing. It's a great initiative. So it has a lot of goodwill behind it, but the government haven't actually driven it. They haven't pushed it enough. Which is so the message is not really out there.
It's a blockchain technology too, and all of that. So tell us about a lot of activities in the crypto space in 2020, 2021, even to the last day. A lot of fluctuations, ups and down in the market, just like the stock market too has been up and down. So what's your take with regards to all that has happened in the market? A lot of reds even during the past year. But what's the level of the market at the moment, and what's your assessment of what you've seen?
So you're right, and one of the things I tell my clients, especially, 2021 was a year of uncertainty. Yep. And let's look at the number 1 economy, which is the United States of America. 40% of the money that's ever been in circulation was printed in one single year. 40% was literally of paper was turned into money. So everything was watered down. It was diluted. Inflation all over the place. So I had a lot of my clients talking about their portfolio in terms of assessment, not doing great. It was a losing year for majority of investors. And I did tell them, you are lucky to still have a portfolio which hasn't actually disappeared totally. So red is expected. And now we're looking at the cryptocurrency, the blockchain technology, which is meant to counter the effect of printing money, of money printing. Now, this is something new which nobody's ever seen on this trend. One thing you need to expect is this is expected to be met with a lot of disbelief, a lot of rejection, a lot of so there will be uncertainties. But you have to understand that there's so much adoption which is going on. A lot of them have great real life use cases, utilities. I have majority of my clients have their assets strictly digitized. Looking at, I was talking to somebody who's a fellow banker in one of the top banks in Nigeria, talking about, if I leave the UK right now, all my assets really relies on me. I could literally decide to move to Ijebu Ode right now, and I'm good without having to do anything. So you do expect this kind of situation where a lot of people are still living in the old ways. They do not believe it, but at the same time, they haven't got a choice. They would have to accept it. Ultimately,
many will say, well, it's really not a financial advice. That's what people will say.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Because that's really important to mention. But let's move on and back to suggesting that Nigeria is losing its competitive advantage to neighboring countries. We've seen one happen even with Twitter moving their office to Ghana, and a lot of stuff happening around the African continent where people think that it is easier to do business. What do you think is the driving factor for this? So
it does feel like an oxymoron. There's a contrast, okay? Nigeria is one of the best places to do businesses because there's no direct there's no limit in terms of investment controls from foreign organizations in Nigeria. So if you, as a foreigner, decide to invest in the Nigerian space today, you are allowed to just go all out. In certain countries, they will restrict what you can do. Government will tell you, oh, we need a certain percentage. But in Nigeria, you are allowed fully fledged full control. However, if you look at the disadvantages all around it, which are, I mean, we have the biggest startup in the world, sorry, in Africa rather. Lagos does, just strictly Lagos, more than the whole of Africa combined. But if you think about what is going on, what are the streets saying? Number one, what's the infrastructure saying? What's the security? And again, you've got to think about the money, which is very important. Your local currency or the national currency, the base currency. So all these things are effectively discouraging people. And again, it's a very unfriendly place to do business, which is quite unfortunate, really. The Nigerians are willing to work. They are willing to support. The brain is here, the knowledge is here, the willpower is here. But we need people at the helm, to support the dilapidated infrastructure. You do see projects. I'm talking about world-class standard projects. But give it over time, and then it doesn't really get that support. And you as a business, you're looking at something that would outlive you. You're not just looking at the first initial stage. And that's quite a shame, really. So, again, speaking of globalization, how do we attract people? You mentioned the cryptocurrency, which I think you said was 500 billion. If I'm going to have to correct that, last year it was at $700 billion. As of January, it closed $2.3 billion. So $1 trillion, sorry, which tripled in market capitalization. If market capitalization is the size of the global cryptocurrency. So, and this thing, we've been watching it growing and expanding. And I've been seeing the odd blockchain technology projects in Nigeria. We do need that for transparency. People need that. But what people do not have and what they lack is the support from the powers that be, the support for security to tell you that, your investment is secure.
That is it. And that's very important when it comes to investments. It has to be secured.
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
Where the challenge comes in. Because the CBN will tell you that the e-Naira is being backed by the Central Bank of Nigeria. So anything that pops up, you know where to walk up to. But how do you follow up with this? How are you so sure that my investment remains safe?
That's a big question. Again, I always say this, the chicken and egg, which of them comes first? So, are you consulting with the government, getting a reassurance, or are you having a trial projects whereby you want to see how it runs before you have more inflows? But there's nothing like a small business. The minute you start, and that's it, you're just done over the time being. Because to wind down a small business is actually a project in its own self. So how do you ensure that? I wouldn't just say just try it out and have a look, because most of the time people tend to go through reviews. They go through, you've got to see what's on ground and are they succeeding? Because there's a lot more than money right now. You do see some people who are making, they're making a world of money in terms of profits, but things get short-lived. And again, we're talking about the business around here is very mechanical. I had a client who relocated from America, somewhere on the suburb of Lagos Island, and she did ask me, how do I survive in this country? I said, well, I've only been around for a couple of weeks, and I did ask her how she survived, and she told me the rule for living here is just to ignore all the rules and strictly create your own island, and you cannot live that way. So again, we need to be a global state within our state, within Nigeria. So whatever we see working globally, and we're very exposed country. We do have very, very well educated people, very aware people and citizens, and these are the things that has to be implemented. I think the very smallest of projects needs to be need to be supported. I've seen the push when it comes to COVID, the pandemic, and how the populace did support the government. Now we need the feedback mechanism, for everything. I do see a lot of Thanksgiving for the year, etc. But that's not what we need. We don't need a lot of pomps and parade. What we need, or what we do need, is, like I said again, we need the support, we need the guarantees. And for us to see the guarantees, there's got to be less talking. I do talk about the country. We do a lot of talking in Nigeria, but we need more practicals. Let's see these things in action. It goes from every day of our lives. If you see these things in action, some of these things are just quite simple. All you need to do is you don't need to talk to anybody. Leave in this certain place for a certain days without announcements, and then you could just draw up your own conclusion if it's for you or not. But unfortunately, again, when it comes to business, there's nothing like a trial and improvement. It's not a trial and improvement method, because you could just, this is a country whereby you could just keep trying, and it's so hard to improve. And a lot of big projects, they get frustrated, they wind up and just go elsewhere, because sometimes the headache is just not worth the profit, which is a shame.
Let's talk a little bit about markets and wrap up this discussion. Omicron is here, and we see the level of the spreading like wildfire everywhere. You can see the figures all very high, even in Nigeria. But I think the debt rate still remains a little bit low. So I think people are just going about their day. But I'm looking at what would you say would have been the impact of this globally as we wrapped up 2021? Any effect directly on the global markets, or what do you think in your assessments?
So COVID, even though it was a 2019, pioneering epidemic, we didn't feel the shock until about March 2020. And in the markets, we had a sharp drop in the markets, and the market went crazy, all-time high, creating many wealth, or building many millionaires in 2020 and beyond. 2021, of course, like virus, these things do form and forge and change into different variants. So Omicron happened, which was worse. Okay, the market's seen it before. The market wasn't very surprised. Initially, it was shaken off by the market, but going forward, I think the market's actually been on the brink. But again, that's not the only thing that's been controlling the market. The Fed, even though, like I talked about, trillions of dollars were printed in 2021 and was given away. So the market, this money came from thin air. The money's got to come back into the economy somehow. And that's one of the things that's why the market's actually been shaking. So the whole of last year, the market's actually just been all red. And in fact, 2 years ago, I think the Nigerian stock exchange was the best in the world against other 100 currencies, markets. However, in 2021, it was all poor all round. And the market's actually been on the edge. We had the Fed, which has been tapering and doing a bond buybacks. So the market's actually been artificially being kept afloat worldwide. So it's not just a Nigerian phenomenon. It's even by the chief economy, which is America. So everything's been kept afloat. But right now, it looks like, and if you look at what the world economy is talking about, the UK, the Prime Minister famously said it's something we probably just have to live with, talking about the herd immunity. Yeah. And, they're leaving it out to the airlines now, saying, you know what, it's up to you, make your own rules if you want people to get tested before they get on your flights. Airlines have been on their knees with a lot of them trying to stay afloat, selling their assets to stay afloat. But to stay afloat, these airlines, what are they trying to do now? They think, okay, the government has given us the powers, so we will just take people, we'll relax the rules. We would enforce testing rules, but we will ensure that the airlines won't fill capacity. It's quite funny, really. I was going to say shameful because there was so much rigorous testing, red tape for me to get on the plane. Yeah. I got on this huge plane carrying about 800 of us. It was filled to the brim. So you would have thought people are not traveling. People are traveling. Things are opening up, but the market's still a little bit being cautious because not sure which way to swing. But it looks like 2021, the market's only been open 2 days, opened with a big bang, and we thought, okay, let's see what's going to happen. And the Fed is talking about, which is controlling the world economy, talking about, okay, we're going to taper down, we're going to calm down. There's not going to be much much interest rate rises, which means so the banks will be able to, to loan or give out money to get the economy rolling as fast as possible. So they're talking about this market, which has been artificially prepped up. They're going to calm it down and let the markets, because that's what you want the market to do, right? To run itself naturally without being pushed as it is being pushed right now. So I think 2020, a little bit of we've got to be cautious again, because 2021, a few of my folks and colleagues and clients, they all went gung-ho, thinking it was going to be the same as 2020, and they all got left with blood on their faces, or met with blood in their faces. So with 2021, it's got to take a cautious approach. I believe the world would eventually open up. It's going to be a gradual approach, unlike 2020. Omicron, COVID is always going to be with us. It's going to be something we will be with us. The masking, etc., is always going to be with us. There's always going to be more variants, so it's nothing to be scared of. But at the same time, it's just something we're going to have to live with. The markets will open up. The ledgers are dying to open up. And if you think about the biggest economies, I mean, Tesla, Apple, they're making, record profits every day. The capitalization keeps hitting world records. So what does that tell you? So beyond, we're looking at beyond the leisures and entertainment, even cyclicals, they are booming. So, and the market's actually telling you, I'm tilting towards this way. And, the market moves before the economy. But right now, the market's a little bit edgy, but it's making progress. It's not grinding down like before. So I believe whatever the market does, the economy tends to follow within weeks or months. So I believe the economy, it will boost, but it will take a gradual step.
Any talks? Nigerian market has also been positive yesterday. Today also closing positive. It's also starting the year. You mentioned last year, yes, the market really did very well, you know, among other markets. What are you thinking about Nigeria's market for this year?
So for this year with Nigerian markets, I believe Nigerian market would replicate other markets. Would it be able to repeat the performance of 2 years when it was the number one? I think that will take a while, because while the rest of the world really, you know, they had a shutdown, you know, we're talking about the GDP, sort of the economy closing down in multiple percentages. Well, Nigeria's had we had a snapshot down, but because of the mechanical and rigorous approach of construction of how our economy is forged, we cannot afford multiple shutdowns. Yes, we've still been we're working tethering we're making progress with the way we forge ahead with the economy, but at the same time, so I don't expect, because we haven't had a snapshot down, so when we're talking about rebuilding, I think it doesn't take a lot to just roll back in and keep building again. So I believe Nigeria is going to be the easiest to ease into rebuilding, while other economies, you know, there will be a big, you know, there'll be a big switch with them. Some of them will be met with shocks, really, unfortunately. And of course, a lot of them are getting used to doing things differently. We've got, you know, we've got now the home economy with people working from home as a new economy again, and a lot of them introducing, and you know, things are changing, which is one of the things we haven't really spoken about as much. And the cryptocurrency, the blockchain, it's now been ingrained, and they're forging ahead. But again, so when it comes to the Nigerian economy, we still have to rely on the big giants that we know to help us, you know, make the progress as we, you know, they make the progress and then we follow. Unfortunately, so I'm still expecting the, you know, the agricultural sector. We're looking at the manufacturing sector, which is not as amazing as I would have thought it would be. So the manufacturing sector, the agricultural sector, we haven't got a big services sector, but I expect that angle as well to keep improving too. So again, like I said, it's going to be the same old winners, unfortunately. That's what I see.
I must thank you so much. Brilliant conversation there. I've been speaking to startup founder of World Hackers, Mr. Olubenga Onifade. Thank you so much. I hope you're enjoying your stay in Nigeria.
I am. Thanks for having me.
All right then.